snowflakes drifted through the night air, settling on the decorated streets where wreaths hung on every door and golden lights glowed in every window. Ethan adjusted the collar of his cashmere coat as he stepped out of his sleek black car, the trunk filled with carefully wrapped Christmas presents for his little daughter, Lily. He was tired but contented tonight, he thought, would be special. But then, as he walked toward his building, he noticed something out of place in the alley beside the glowing storefronts. A figure bent low near a trash bin, shivering violently in the cold. Ethan slowed, squinting through the shadows. It was a woman, young, but worn down, her face pale from hunger and exhaustion. Her oversized jacket was torn at the sleeves, and her hands, red from the freezing air, searched desperately through discarded bags. She pulled out a half-rotten apple and, for a moment, just stared at it with a strange mix of shame and relief. Ethan's chest tightened. For a split second, he considered walking past. After all, people in the city always told you not to get involved. But something inside him, perhaps the memory of lonely nights after his wife's death, wouldn't let him ignore her. He cleared his throat softly, his deep voice breaking the silence of the snowy street. "Miss a Broken Bar, are you all right?" The woman stiffened immediately, clutching the apple as if it were treasure. She turned slowly, her eyes wide with embarrassment, her lips trembling. Snow clung to her messy hair as she whispered, almost pleading, "I'm fine, a broken bar, I'll leave. Please, don't call the police. I wasn't stealing a broken bar, I just need to eat." It's Christmas Eve. Ethan stood there for a moment, his breath fogging in the cold night, unable to look away from the young woman's trembling form. Something about the way she clutched that bruised apple, not with greed, but with quiet desperation, stirred a memory he had buried deep. He remembered those nights after his wife passed away, when grief wrapped around his chest so tightly he could hardly breathe. Loneliness had been his silent companion, and he knew how it felt to be invisible in a world that kept moving without you. Slowly, he stepped closer, careful not to frighten her. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice softer now. Her eyes darted to the ground. For a moment, it seemed she might stay silent, but then she swallowed hard and answered in a fragile whisper, "Claire." The sound of her name lingered in the air like a secret. She looked down at the apple in her hand, then back at him, her lips quivering. "I used to be a teacher. Second grade. I loved it. I loved the kids, the noise, even the messy chalkboards. But when the school shut down, I lost my job. I thought I'd bounce back quickly, a broken bar, but one thing went wrong after another. The rent piled up, the bills came in, and before I knew it, I didn't have a home to go back to." Her voice cracked, and she hugged her thin coat tighter around herself. "I promised myself I wouldn't beg. I told myself I had too much pride for that. But hunger doesn't care about pride. Tonight I just wanted to find something or anything that could keep me going. I didn't want much. Just a little food, a broken bar, maybe a reminder that I'm still human." Ethan felt his throat tighten, the words catching before he could respond. Behind him, the sound of laughter drifted from his apartment above. His daughter, Lily, was pressing her small hands against the frosted window, waving down at him with innocent excitement. Her hair glowed in the warm light of the Christmas tree, and she called out, though he couldn't hear the words. He turned back to Claire, her figure standing small and fragile against the falling snow. For the first time in a long while, Ethan saw the contrast between the life he had built for Lily and himself and the cruel fate that had left this woman with nothing. The thought gripped him, how easily life could shatter, how quickly the warmth of security could be stolen away. Ethan's chest rose and fell as he stood there, torn between walking away and stepping into something that would change everything. The world had taught him to guard himself, to keep his distance, but the raw honesty in Claire's voice had pierced right through the walls he had built. He took a slow breath, then spoke with a quiet conviction. "Claire, come with me." Her eyes widened in alarm. She shook her head quickly, stepping back as if his kindness might burn her. "No, I don't want charity," she whispered, clutching the apple like a shield. "I've already lost enough of myself. I just a broken bar, I just needed to make it through tonight." Her voice broke on the last word, the weight of her pride colliding with her desperation. Ethan didn't move closer, but his gaze softened. This isn't charity. It's Christmas. No one should be out here alone on Christmas Eve. His tone carried no pity, only a gentle certainty that made her chest ache. And you don't have to prove anything to me. Just a broken bar, let me help. For a long moment, the only sound was the snow tapping softly against the pavement. Claire's breath came in uneven clouds as she stared at him, torn between fear and longing. Something in his face, steady, unjudging, warmer, finally broke through the walls she had built. Slowly, almost against her will, she nodded. Minutes later, she stepped hesitantly into his apartment, her body stiff with nerves. Warmth immediately wrapped around her like a blanket at the golden glow of the Christmas tree, the faint scent of cinnamon and pine, the soft sound of carols playing in the background. At the dining table sat Lily, her small face lighting up at the sight of their guest. "Hi," the little girl chirped, her voice full of joy. She ran over, holding a gingerbread cookie in her tiny hand. Without hesitation, she pressed it into Claire's palm. "You can have mine. Daddy says sharing is the best part of Christmas." Claire's eyes filled instantly, her throat tightening until she couldn't speak. She looked down at the cookie, then at Lily's beaming face, and finally at Ethana, who stood quietly, watching with a softness he hadn't felt in years. The Christmas lights reflected in Claire's tears as she whispered, almost to herself, "I just didn't want to be invisible." And in that moment, with the warmth of a child's kindness and the steady presence of a man who chose compassion, she wasn't invisible anymore. She was seen. She was human. She belonged.